The massive ship Domination's Edge moved through space like a metal beast. Its dark hull stretched for miles, covered in weapons that could destroy entire cities. Inside the ship, hundreds of alien warriors walked the halls with heavy steps. These were the Veltharans, and they were proud of being the strongest fighters in the galaxy. Commander Velthek stood in the prisoner bay, his forearms crossed behind his back. He was 8 feet tall, with thick skin that looked like armor. His face had sharp bones and teeth like knives. 2 small eyes looked down at the new prisoners that had just arrived on his ship. "Another batch of weaklings," he said to his second-in-command, Thekval. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stones. "Look at them. The Rigelians think they are tough with their blue skin and big muscles. The Centauri believe their magic makes them special. But they all break the same way when we fight them." Thekval nodded his large head. He was smaller than the commander, but still much bigger than most other species. "Yes, sir. They all thought they could stand against us. They were wrong." The prisoners stood in a line, their hands tied behind their backs. There were 12 of them from different worlds. Some had scales, others had fur, a few had extra arms, or strange-colored skin. All of them looked tired and beaten. They had fought hard battles, but the Veltharans had won in the end. Veltek walked slowly in front of the prisoners. Each step made a loud sound on the metal floor. He liked this part of his job. Looking at the defeated enemies made him feel strong and important. It reminded him why his people ruled so much of the galaxy. "You fought with honor," he told the prisoners. "But honor means nothing when you are weak. We Veltharans understand this truth. That is why we win every battle. That is why your worlds now belong to us." At the end of the line stood something that made Velthek stop walking. It was a creature unlike any he had seen before. The being was much smaller than the others, maybe 6 feet tall. Its skin was soft and pink with no scales or armor anywhere. It had only 2 arms and 2 legs, and both looked thin and weak. The creature's hair was black and cut short. Its eyes were dark and looking straight ahead. There were small cuts on its face and arms, and it was standing with one leg bent like it was hurt. Everything about this being said weak to the commander. "What is this?" Veltek asked, pointing one of his clawed fingers at the small creature. "Did we capture someone's pet by mistake?" Some of his soldiers started laughing. Even the other prisoners looked at the small being with confused faces. A Rigelian soldier next to it shook his blue head sadly, as if he felt sorry for the creature. "Sir," said a young Veltharan soldier, reading from a datapad. "This one was found fighting with the others on New Busan. It was carrying weapons and wearing armor." "Armor?" Velthek laughed so hard that his voice echoed through the whole room. "Where is this armor? I see only soft skin that would not stop a child's toy weapon." The commander walked closer to the small creature. Up close, he could see how truly weak it was. The being had no claws on its fingers. Its teeth were small and flat, not sharp like a fighter's should be. Its arms looked like they could barely lift a weapon, let alone use one in battle. "What species are you, little one?" Veltek asked, his voice full of mock kindness. The creature looked up at him with those dark eyes. When it spoke, its voice was calm and clear. "Human." "Human?" Velthek had never heard this word before. He looked at Thekval, who also seemed confused. "Is this some kind of servant race? A worker species, perhaps?" The human said nothing more. It just kept looking at the commander with those strange, quiet eyes. Veltek turned to his computer officer. "Search our database, find out what a human is." The officer worked quickly on his machine. After a few moments, he looked up with a surprised face. "Sir, there is no information about humans in our database. This species is completely unknown to us." Unknown? This was very strange. The Veltharans had fought many different species across the galaxy. They kept detailed records of every enemy they had faced. How could there be a species they knew nothing about? "Perhaps they are new to space travel," suggested Thekval. "Some worlds only recently learned to build ships and leave their home planets." Veltek nodded. This made sense. That would explain why this one is so weak. A species that just learned to fly among the stars would not know how to fight real warriors. He walked around the human, studying it like a scientist would study a bug. The creature did not move or speak, it just stood there, watching and waiting. "Look at this," Veltek said to his soldiers, pointing at the human's hands. "No claws, no natural weapons at all. And see how thin its skin is? I could cut through it with just my fingernail." The soldiers laughed again. Even the other prisoners seemed to agree that the human was out of place among warriors. "And these arms," the commander continued, grabbing one of the human's arms roughly. "So weak. A Veltharan child has stronger arms than this full-grown creature." The human's face did not change when Veltek grabbed its arm. Most prisoners would cry out or try to pull away. This one just stood there like a statue. "Are you deaf, little human?" Veltek asked. "Or are you too scared to speak?" "I can hear you fine," the human replied. Its voice was still calm and steady. This surprised the commander. Most prisoners were crying or begging by now. They knew what happened to those who were captured by the Veltharans, but this human seemed almost bored. "Do you know where you are?" Veltek asked. "Yes." "Do you know what we do to prisoners?" "Yes." "And yet you are not afraid?" The human was quiet for a moment. Then it said, "Should I be?" The question caught Veltek off guard. Should it be afraid? Of course it should be afraid. He was commander, Veltek, winner of 100 battles, slayer of champions from dozens of worlds. Every prisoner should be terrified to stand before him. "You are either very brave or very stupid," he said finally. "Maybe both," the human replied. This made some of the soldiers laugh, but Veltek did not find it funny. There was something about this small creature that bothered him. It was not acting like prisoners were supposed to act. Where was the fear? Where was the respect? "Tell me, human," Veltek said, his voice becoming more serious. "What were you doing on New Busan? What was your job in the battle?" "I was a soldier." "A soldier?" Veltek could not believe what he was hearing. "You? With those weak arms and soft skin? What kind of military would send something like you to fight?" "The kind that wins," the human said simply. The room became very quiet. Even the other prisoners stopped moving to listen. No one had ever spoken to Commander Veltek like this before. Veltek felt anger growing in his chest. This tiny creature was making fun of him in front of his soldiers. It was suggesting that its military was better than the great Veltharan army. This could not be allowed to continue. "You think your people are strong?" he asked, his voice becoming dangerous. "Strong enough? Strong enough for what?" The human looked directly into Veltek's eyes. "Strong enough to make you wish you had never heard of us." The commander's anger exploded. How dare this weak little thing threaten him? He raised one of his large hands to strike the human down. But something in those dark eyes made him stop. For just a moment he saw something that confused him. It was not fear or sadness. It was not even anger. It was patience. Like the human was waiting for something to happen. Like it knew something that Veltek did not know. The commander lowered his hand slowly. He would not give this creature the quick death of anger. No, he would do something much better. He would prove to everyone just how weak humans really were. "Tekval," he said, turning to his lieutenant, "prepare the arena. It seems our new friend here believes its species is worthy of respect. I think it is time we tested that theory." The human's expression did not change, but Veltek thought he saw something flicker in those dark eyes. Was it fear finally showing, or was it something else entirely? Soon, he would find out exactly what humans were made of. The arena was the pride of the domination's edge. It was a large round room with metal walls that reached up to a dark ceiling. Bright lights shined down on the fighting floor below. Around the edges, there were seats for hundreds of watchers. Today those seats were filling up fast. Word had spread quickly through the ship. Commander Veltek was going to fight a prisoner. But not just any prisoner. He was going to fight the strange, weak creature that called itself human. Soldiers, officers, and even some of the ship's workers came to watch. They all wanted to see this unusual event. "I do not understand why the commander wants to do this," said one young soldier to his friend as they found seats. It will be over so quickly. That little creature will die in seconds. His friend nodded. Maybe the commander wants to send a message to the other prisoners. Show them what happens when you disrespect Veltharan power. In the lower levels of the ship, the other prisoners were also talking about what was happening. They had been brought to watch the fight. Guards stood around them with weapons ready, making sure no one tried to escape. That human is going to die, said a Rigelian soldier quietly to the prisoner next to him. I have seen Velthek fight before. He has killed champions from 20 different worlds. That small creature has no chance. A Centauri warrior shook his head sadly. I do not know what humans are, but this one showed courage. It is a shame to see courage wasted on impossible odds. Meanwhile, in the preparation rooms below the arena, Veltek was getting ready for battle. His personal servants helped him put on his ceremonial armor. It was black metal covered with symbols of his victories. Each mark represented an enemy he had defeated in single combat. Sir, said Thekval as he watched his commander prepare, are you sure about this? Fighting prisoners is usually left to the lower soldiers. You are too important to risk yourself against such a weak opponent. Veltek laughed as he picked up his war scythes. These were his favorite weapons, long curved blades attached to metal handles. He had used them to cut down enemy generals and alien champions. The blades were so sharp they could slice through steel. Risk myself, Veltek said, against that tiny creature? I am more likely to be hurt by falling down the stairs. No, this is not about risk. This is about teaching a lesson. That human thinks its species is strong. I will show everyone how wrong it is. In the other preparation room, the human sat alone on a metal bench. A guard had given it a simple plasma blade, a basic weapon that glowed with blue energy. The human held the weapon calmly, testing its weight and balance. It moved, the blade slowly through the air as if practicing. The guard watching the human was confused. Most prisoners given weapons before their death would be shaking with fear or crying. Some would beg for mercy, others would scream and curse their enemies. But this human just sat quietly, moving the weapon like it was thinking about something. Are you ready, human? The guard asked. He was curious about this strange creature. The human looked up. Ready for what? To die, of course. Commander Veltek has never lost a fight. You will be dead within moments of entering the arena. The human thought about this for a few seconds. Then it said, we will see. The guard was surprised by this. Answer. Did the human not understand what was about to happen? Did it really think it could survive against the commander? Up in the arena, the crowd was getting excited. Veltek had entered the fighting area, and the watchers were cheering loudly. He raised his weapons high above his head, and the cheers became even louder. This was their greatest warrior, undefeated in over 100 fights. Warriors of the Veltharan Empire, Veltek's voice boomed through the arena. Today we will see what happens when weakness meets strength. Today we will show the galaxy why we rule the stars. The crowd roared its approval. Some soldiers started chanting Veltek's name. Others called for the human's blood. Then the arena became quiet. A door opened on the opposite side from where Veltek stood. The human walked out slowly, carrying its plasma blade. Compared to the commander's impressive size and armor, it looked even smaller and weaker than before. Look at it, someone in the crowd shouted. It can barely carry its weapon. This will be the shortest fight in arena history, called another voice. Veltek waited in the center of the arena as the human approached. He wanted to get a good look at his opponent before the battle started. As the human came closer, the commander noticed something interesting. The human was not shaking. Its hands were steady on its weapon. Its breathing was slow and controlled. Most strange of all, its eyes were not looking at Veltek with fear. Instead, they were studying him, watching how he moved, seeing how he held his weapons. You have courage, little human, Veltek said when they were 10 feet apart. I will give you that, but courage without strength is just another word for stupidity. The human did not reply. It just kept watching the commander with those dark, careful eyes. I am going to give you one chance, Veltek continued. Kneel down now, admit that humans are weak, and I will make your death quick and painless. Refuse, and I will take my time killing you piece by piece. The human finally spoke. I have a better idea. Oh? And what is that? How about you try your best to beat me and we see what happens? The crowd gasped. No one had ever spoken to their commander like this before. Some soldiers stood up in anger. Others laughed at the human's foolishness. Velthek felt his face grow hot with rage. This tiny creature was mocking him in front of his entire crew. It was making him look weak and foolish. This could not be allowed to continue. Very well, he said, raising his scythes. You have chosen the hard way. Do not blame me for what happens next. The arena official raised his hand. Fighters ready, he called out. Both Velthek and the human took fighting positions. The crowd held its breath. Begin! Velthek charged forward immediately. He was fast for his size, his forearms swinging his weapons in deadly patterns. The scythes cut through the air with whistling sounds. Any normal opponent would be cut to pieces in seconds. But something unexpected happened. The human was not where Velthek expected it to be. Instead of standing still like most opponents did when they were scared, the human had moved to the side at the last second. The commander's weapons hit nothing but empty air. Velthek spun around quickly, looking for his target. The human was now standing several feet away, still calm, still watching. How had something so small moved so fast? Stay still and die like a warrior, Velthek roared. He attacked again, this time swinging his scythes in wide circles to cover more area. Surely the human could not dodge attacks from all directions. But again, the human was not there when the weapons arrived. It had ducked low and rolled to safety. As it came up from the roll, the human's plasma blade flicked out quickly, touching Velthek's leg for just a moment before pulling back. The commander looked down in surprise. There was a small cut in his armor where the human's weapon had touched. The cut was not deep, but it was there. The human had actually managed to hit him. The crowd was becoming restless. They had expected to see the human die quickly. Instead, they were watching their undefeated champion swing his weapons at empty air, while a tiny creature danced around him. What is happening? Someone in the crowd asked. Why cannot the commander hit it? It is too small and fast, replied another voice. But it cannot hide forever. One good hit from the commander and it will be over. Velthek was thinking the same thing. The human was quicker than he had expected, but it was still just avoiding his attacks. It had not really hurt him. The cut on his leg was nothing. All he needed was one solid hit, and this embarrassing fight would be over. He changed his strategy. Instead of wild swings, he began making careful, precise attacks. He used his forearms to control different areas, forcing the human into smaller and smaller spaces. Soon it would have nowhere left to run. But the human seemed to understand what Velthek was doing. Instead of trying to avoid all the attacks, it began doing something that confused the commander. The human started moving toward Velthek's weapons instead of away from them. This made no sense. Moving toward the weapons should mean getting hit and killed. But somehow the human was slipping between the attacks, getting closer to Velthek's body where the long scythes were harder to use effectively. The commander tried to step back and create distance, but the human stayed close. Its plasma blade was moving constantly now, making small, quick cuts whenever it found an opening. None of the cuts were serious, but they were adding up. Velthek was bleeding from a dozen small wounds. The crowd was getting worried. This was not how the fight was supposed to go. Their champion should be standing over a dead enemy by now. Instead, he was being cut by a creature that should have died in the first few seconds. How is it doing this? Velthek thought to himself as he tried to hit the human again and missed. How can something so weak be so fast? How can it see my attacks coming? For the first time in many years, Commander Velthek began to feel something. He had almost forgotten. It was a cold feeling in his stomach, a nervous energy that made his hands shake slightly. It was doubt. And with the doubt came the first tiny seed of something even worse. Fear. The arena had become strangely quiet. The loud cheering from before had stopped. Now the crowd watched in confused silence as their unbeatable commander struggled against the small human. Velthek was breathing hard, sweat dripping from his face. The human looked like it had just started warming up. "This is impossible," whispered a soldier in the stands. "The commander has fought for 20 years. He has never even been hurt in single combat. How is this tiny creature making him bleed?" Next to him, an older officer shook his head slowly. "I do not understand it either. That human moves like it can see the future. Every time the commander attacks, it is already moving to safety." Down in the prisoner section, the other captured warriors were also watching with growing amazement. The Rigelian soldier who had felt sorry for the human earlier was now staring with his mouth open. "By the ancient stars," he whispered, "what kind of training does this species have? I have never seen movement like that." A Centauri warrior leaned forward in his seat. "Look at its eyes. Even while fighting for its life, it is still studying the commander. It is learning his patterns, finding his weaknesses." In the arena, Veltek was discovering the same thing. Every attack he made seemed to teach the human something new. The creature was adapting to his fighting style faster than should be possible. Moves that had almost hit it the first time were easily avoided when he tried them again. "What are you?" Veltek gasped as they circled each other. His forearms were getting tired from swinging the heavy scythes. The human's single plasma blade seemed as light as air in its hands. "I told you already," the human replied. Its voice was still calm and steady even after several minutes of intense fighting. "I am human. That tells me nothing." Veltek roared in frustration. "What planet are you from? What kind of warriors are your people?" The human was quiet for a moment, still moving in that smooth, careful way. Then it said, "We come from a world called Earth, and we are not warriors." "Not warriors?" Veltek could not believe what he was hearing. "Then how do you fight like this?" "We are soldiers. What is the difference?" The human ducked under another swing of Veltek's scythes, then made a quick cut across the commander's arm. More blood flowed from the wound. "Warriors fight with honor and tradition," the human explained as it moved away from Veltek's counterattack. "They follow rules and codes. They fight to prove they are brave." Veltek tried a combination attack with all four arms, but the human slipped between his weapons like water flowing through cracks. "Soldiers fight to win," the human continued. "We do not care about honor or tradition. We care about completing the mission and going home alive." This explanation made Veltek angry and confused at the same time. "That is no way for a warrior to think. Where is your honor? Where is your pride?" The human actually smiled a little. It was not a nice smile. "Pride does not stop bullets. Honor does not heal wounds. We learned a long time ago that the only thing that matters in war is results." Veltek attacked again, putting all his strength into a series of powerful swings. But the human was ready. Instead of just avoiding the attacks, it did something that shocked the commander. The human moved forward, getting inside Veltek's guard and grabbed one of his arms. For a moment they were very close together. Veltek could see the human's face clearly. What he saw there made him take a step back in surprise. The human was not afraid. It was not even particularly angry. Instead, its expression was focused and calm, like someone doing a difficult job that required concentration. It was the look of a professional at work. "You see," the human said quietly, "you think this is a test of strength or courage, but for me this is just problem solving." "Problem solving? You are bigger and stronger than me. You have more weapons and natural armor. In a straight fight you should win easily." The human stepped back as Veltek tried to grab it with his free arms. "So I do not fight you straight. I fight you smart." Veltek finally understood what was happening. This was not a battle between two warriors testing their honor. This was a hunt, and he was the prey. The human was not trying to defeat him in glorious combat. It was trying to kill him in the most efficient way possible. "You fight without honor," he accused. "I fight without stupidity," the human corrected. "Your people are strong and tough, but you fight the same way every time. You depend on your natural advantages instead of thinking about new strategies." The commander tried another attack, but his movements were getting slower. The many small cuts were starting to affect him. Blood loss was making him weak. Humans are not the strongest species, the human continued as it avoided another swing. We are not the fastest or the toughest, but we are the best at adapting. We learn from every fight. We study our enemies and find their weak points. We have no weak points, Veltec shouted. Everyone has weak points, the human said. Then it did something that proved its words. Instead of attacking Veltec's body, it went after one of his scythes. The plasma blade cut through the weapon's handle and half of the scythe fell to the arena floor. Veltec stared at his broken weapon in shock. How did you know that was possible? I have been watching how you hold your weapons. The handles are strong, but they have stress points where the metal was joined together. A precise cut at the right angle can break them. The crowd was becoming restless. Many soldiers were standing up, shouting at their commander to finish the fight. Some were starting to leave, unable to watch their hero struggle against such a small opponent. Commander Veltec is the strongest warrior in the galaxy, someone yelled. Kill that weak creature. But Veltec was beginning to understand that strength was not going to be enough. This human fought in a way he had never experienced before. It used his own strength against him, turned his advantages into weaknesses. What kind of world creates fighters like you? He asked during a brief pause in the battle. The human looked at him with those dark, intelligent eyes. A dangerous one. What? Do you mean Earth is not a safe place? Everything on our planet is trying to kill us. The weather, the animals, the diseases, even the ground under our feet. We learned to survive by being smarter than everything that wanted us dead. Veltec tried to imagine such a world. His own planet was harsh, but it had been conquered by his people long ago. They were the top predators there. What would it be like to come from a place where you were never safe? And then, the human continued, we learned to fight each other. Your own species? For thousands of years. We have been at war with ourselves almost constantly. Every generation learns new ways to kill. Every battle teaches us something new about combat. This was horrifying to think about. The Veltherans fought other species, but they rarely fought among themselves. The idea of endless war within one species seemed like madness. That is why you adapt so quickly, Veltec realized. You have fought every type of enemy possible, including ourselves, the human agreed. And we are very creative when it comes to finding new ways to win. To prove its point, the human suddenly changed its fighting style completely. Instead of the smooth, flowing movements it had been using, it became aggressive and direct. It attacked Veltec head-on, using moves the commander had never seen before. Veltec was caught completely off guard. He had been learning to fight against the human's defensive style. Now it was attacking like a completely different fighter. His attempts to counter were clumsy and slow. The human's plasma blade found its target again and again. More cuts appeared on Veltec's arms and chest. Some of these were deeper than before, causing real damage. You see? The human said as it landed another hit. Just when you think you understand how we fight, we change. Adaptation is our greatest weapon. Veltec was beginning to feel dizzy from blood loss. His movements were becoming clumsy. The scythes felt heavier in his hands with each passing moment. I need to end this quickly, he thought, before I become too weak to fight at all. He gathered his remaining strength for one final, desperate attack. All four arms moved at once, trying to overwhelm the human with pure force and speed. But the human was ready for this too. Instead of trying to avoid all the attacks, it moved forward again, getting inside Veltec's reach where the long weapons were useless. And then something happened that would be talked about on the ship for years to come. The human dropped its plasma blade and grabbed Veltec with its bare hands. The commander was shocked. What could those weak human arms possibly do against his armored body? He was about to find out. The human twisted Veltec's body in a way that used the commander's own weight against him. It was a move that required perfect timing and understanding of balance and leverage. Before Veltec knew what was happening, he was falling toward the arena floor. He hit the ground hard, his remaining scythes flying from his hands. The human was on top of him immediately, one hand controlling his movement, the other holding a small knife that had appeared from somewhere in its clothing. The knife pressed against Veltec's throat, right where his armor did not protect him. Yield, the human said quietly. Veltek looked up into those dark eyes. For the first time in his life, he was completely defeated. Not just beaten in combat, but outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and humbled by a creature he had thought was weak. The arena was completely silent. The silence in the arena was deafening. For several long moments, nobody moved or spoke. The sight of their undefeated commander lying on the ground with a human's knife at his throat was too shocking for the Veltheron minds to process. Then, someone in the crowd screamed, "Impossible!" The voice cried out, "This cannot be real." The scream broke the spell. Suddenly, the arena erupted in chaos. Some soldiers were shouting in anger, demanding that the guards shoot the human immediately. Others sat in stunned silence, unable to believe what they had witnessed. A few were already leaving, too disturbed by what they had seen to remain. The human stood up slowly, keeping the knife ready but not threatening anyone. It picked up its plasma blade from where it had dropped it during the final grapple. Veltek remained on the ground, breathing heavily and staring at the ceiling. "Guards!" shouted Thekeval from his observation post above the arena. "Surround the human! Do not let it escape!" Dozens of armed soldiers rushed into the arena, their weapons pointed at the human from all directions. The human did not try to run or fight. It simply stood there waiting to see what would happen next. Veltek slowly pushed himself up to a sitting position. His armor was dented and scratched. Blood stained his clothing from many small wounds. But it was not his physical injuries that hurt the most. It was his pride. "Stop," he said quietly. The guards hesitated, unsure if they had heard correctly. "I said stop," Veltek repeated, his voice stronger this time. "Lower your weapons." "But, sir," Thekeval protested, "that creature defeated you. It must be destroyed immediately." Veltek looked at his lieutenant with tired eyes. "It defeated me fairly in single combat. According to our laws, it has earned the right to live until I decide otherwise." This was true. Veltheran tradition said that any prisoner who could defeat a commander in the arena had proven their worth as a warrior. They could not be executed without good reason. The guards lowered their weapons reluctantly. They kept watching the human, carefully, ready to shoot if it made any threatening moves. Veltek struggled to his feet. Every movement hurt, but he forced himself to stand straight. A commander could not show weakness even in defeat. "You," he said to the human. "What is your name?" "Li Hyun," the human replied. "Li Hyun." Veltek tested the strange sounds. "You have defeated me in combat, but I do not understand how. Your species appears weak in every way that matters for fighting." Hyun shrugged. "Appearances can be misleading. Explain this to me. I must understand what happened here today." The human thought for a moment. "Your people are physically superior to mine in almost every way. You are stronger, faster, and tougher, but you fight like your physical advantages are the only things that matter." "They should be the only things that matter," Veltek said. "In any honest fight, the stronger warrior wins." "There is no such thing as an honest fight," Hyun replied. "There are only fights you win and fights you lose. Everything else is just rules that get you killed." Veltek frowned. "You speak of war like it is a game with no honor. War is not a game. It is survival. And survival has only one rule. Whatever works." While they talked, Thekeval was working frantically at a computer terminal above the arena. As the second in command, he needed to understand what had just happened. Their military superiority was built on the idea that Veltherans were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. If a single human could defeat their best fighter, what did that mean for their empire? "Sir," he called down to Veltek, "I am searching our databases for information about humans. There must be something about this species that we missed." "You will not find much," Hyun said. "We try to stay hidden from species like yours." "What do you mean, species like ours?" Veltek asked. "Conquerors, empire builders, species that think strength gives them the right to rule others." This angered many of the soldiers who were listening. To them, strength did give the right to rule. It was the natural order of the universe. Strength is the only thing that matters. In this galaxy, one guard said boldly. The weak serve the strong. That is how it has always been. Hyun looked at the guard with those calm, dark eyes. Is that what you think? It is what I know. Then you have not been paying attention to this fight. The guard's face turned red with anger, but Veltek raised a hand to stop him from speaking. The commander was beginning to understand that there was much more to learn about humans. Continue. Searching, he told Thekval. Look for any mention of Earth or human military capabilities. Thekval worked at his computer for several more minutes. Finally, he found something that made his face go pale. Sir, he said in a shaky voice, I found a reference. It is in our intelligence files about species to avoid. Species to avoid? Velthek was confused. We are the Veltharan Empire. We do not avoid anyone. This file is very old, sir. From before we became an empire. It is a warning left by the explorers who first mapped this part of the galaxy. What does it say? Thekval read from his screen. Warning. Avoid the third planet of the star system designated as Sol, inhabited by a species that calls itself human. Extremely dangerous. Do not engage under any circumstances. The arena became very quiet again. Even the prisoners in their section leaned forward to hear better. That is impossible, Veltek said. If humans were truly dangerous, we would have heard of them by now. They would be known throughout the galaxy. Maybe they do not want to be known, suggested Thekval. Hyun nodded. Your friend is smarter than he looks. Explain, Veltek demanded. Humans. Learned long ago that it is better to be underestimated than feared. When people think you are weak, they do not prepare for war against you. When they think you are strong, they unite to destroy you before you can destroy them. So you hide your true nature? We let others see what they expect to see. Most species look at our soft skin and weak bodies and assume we are not threats. By the time they learn the truth, it is usually too late. Velthek was starting to understand, but he needed more information. Thekval, search for any records of human military conflicts. There must be some data about their combat capabilities. His lieutenant searched for several more minutes. What he found made him even more pale than before. Sir, I found scattered reports from various sources. Most are listed as unconfirmed or too strange to believe. Tell me anyway. There are reports of human ships defeating much larger fleets through superior tactics. Stories of human soldiers continuing to fight even after receiving wounds that should have killed them. Accounts of humans using psychological warfare that drives enemy forces insane with fear. Velthek looked at Hyun. Are these reports true? Some of them, probably. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We have learned many different ways to win. But you said your people are not naturally strong. We are not. But we do not let that stop us. When we cannot win through strength, we win through intelligence. When we cannot win through intelligence, we win through determination. When we cannot win through determination, we change the rules of the game until we can win. One of the Veltharan soldiers listening could not contain his curiosity. What do you mean, change the rules? Hyun smiled that cold, professional smile again. Let me give you an example. Your people conquered many worlds through superior military power, correct? Yes, Velthek answered. You defeated each enemy army in direct combat, then took control of their planets. That is how conquest works. That is how conquest used to work, but humans fight differently. If we cannot defeat your army, we do not try to. Instead, we might target your supply lines, or your communication networks, or your families back on your home worlds. The arena became very quiet. This kind of warfare was beyond anything that Veltharans had imagined. You would attack non-combatants? Thekval asked, horrified. We would attack whatever targets give us the best chance of winning. If destroying your ability to make war requires attacking civilian targets, then that is what we do. That is not honorable warfare. No, Hyun agreed. It is effective warfare. Honor is a luxury that you can only afford when you are winning. Vel. Thek was beginning to see the true scope of what humans represented. You fight total war. We fight to survive. Everything else is secondary. The commander thought about this for a long moment. His entire understanding of warfare was based on the idea of honorable combat between military forces. The concept of attacking an enemy's entire civilization was alien to him. How many wars have your people fought? He asked. All of them. Hyun replied simply. What do you mean? Humans have been at war continuously for our entire recorded history. Sometimes we fight other species that threaten us. Most of the time we fight each other. Your own species? Competition makes us stronger. Every human military has been tested against other human militaries. Only the best tactics and strategies survive. Everything else gets people killed and is abandoned. Thek felt a chill run down his spine. The implications of what he was hearing were terrifying. The Veltharans had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced an enemy that had been perfecting warfare for thousands of years against opponents of equal intelligence. Thekval, he said quietly. Search for any information about the current location of the human military. His lieutenant worked at his computer, but after several minutes he looked up with confusion. The hours that followed the arena fight were the most tense in the history of the Domination's Edge. Word of Commander Veltek's defeat had spread throughout the entire ship. Soldiers gathered in small groups, whispering about what they had witnessed. Many refused to believe it had really happened. In the ship's medical bay, Veltek sat on an examination table while a doctor treated his wounds. The cuts were not serious, but there were many of them. Each one was a reminder of how completely he had been outfought. The injuries will heal quickly, sir, the doctor said as he worked. But I am more concerned about your psychological state. Losing a fight after so many victories can be traumatic for a warrior's mind. Veltek said nothing. He was thinking about everything the human had told him. The more he thought about it, the more worried he became. If humans were truly as dangerous as they seemed, then the Veltharan Empire might have made a terrible mistake by capturing one of them. Sir, came Thekval's voice over the communication system, you need to come to the bridge immediately. We have received a message. What kind of message? You need to see this for yourself, sir. Velthek finished getting his wounds bandaged and made his way to the bridge. As he walked through the corridors, he noticed that his soldiers looked at him differently now. There was still respect, but also uncertainty. Their unbeatable commander had been beaten. What did that mean for all of them? The bridge was busy with activity when he arrived. Officers were working at their stations, checking sensors and communication equipment. In the center of the room, a large display screen showed the darkness of space. Report, Velthek ordered. Sir, we received a transmission about an hour ago. It came from a ship that appeared at the edge of our sensor range. The ship identified itself as belonging to the human defense fleet. Velthek felt his stomach tighten. Show me the message. The display screen changed to show the image of a human female in military uniform. She appeared to be middle-aged, with short gray hair and cold, intelligent eyes. Behind her, Velthek could see other humans working at control stations. I am Admiral Park Ji-won of the Human Defense Fleet, the woman said in a clear, strong voice. We understand that you have captured one of our soldiers. We want him back. The message was simple and direct. No threats, no demands, just a statement of what the humans wanted. That is all? Velthek asked. No ultimatum? No declaration of war? There is more, sir. Thekval looked nervous. The ship that sent this message, it is still out there. Our sensors can barely detect it, but it appears to be maintaining position just outside our weapons range. One ship? They sent one ship to demand the return of their soldier? It appears so, sir. Velthek studied the image of the human admiral. Like the soldier Hyun, she showed no fear or anger, just professional competence. It was the same calm confidence that had made Hyun so dangerous in combat. What kind of ship are our sensors detecting? The sensor officer checked his readings. Unknown class, sir. It is smaller than our battlecruiser, but it is generating energy signatures that do not match anything in our database. Weapons? Unknown, sir. The ship's configuration is unlike anything we have seen before. Velthek was beginning to understand the situation. The humans had not sent a large fleet to rescue their soldier. They had sent a single ship with unknown capabilities. It was exactly the kind of unpredictable response that Hyun had warned him about. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving another transmission." "From the same ship?" "No, sir. This one is coming from a different direction entirely." The screen changed to show another human, this one a younger male with dark hair. He wore the same type of uniform as the admiral. "This is Captain Kim Tae-jun of the Human Defense Fleet," the man said. "We are prepared to negotiate for the return of our soldier." Velthek looked at his sensor officers. "Are you detecting another ship?" "Yes, sir. Same type as the first one. It appeared on our sensors just moments ago." "How many ships are out there?" The sensor officer worked frantically at his console. "Sir, I am detecting at least 6 ships now. They seem to be appearing from different directions." Velthek felt a cold fear growing in his chest. The humans were not negotiating from a position of weakness. They were demonstrating that they had the domination's edge surrounded. "Can we fight our way out?" he asked his weapons officer. "Unknown, sir. We do not know what kind of weapons those ships carry, but our ship is designed for combat against known enemy types. If these humans use different technologies..." The weapons officer did not need to finish his sentence. Everyone on the bridge understood what he meant. The Veltharan Empire had always won through superior firepower and armor. But their weapons were designed to fight enemies that used similar technologies. Against something completely unknown, their advantages might mean nothing. "Sir," the communications officer said, "the human admiral is requesting to speak with you directly." Velthek straightened his uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. "Open the channel." The screen changed back to show Admiral Park. This time her image was larger and clearer. She looked directly at Velthek as if she could see him through the screen. "Commander Velthek," she said, "I understand that you have been testing our soldier in combat." "How do you know that?" "We know many things, Commander. For example, we know that your ship carries approximately 12,000 crew members. We know that you have conquered 17 different star systems in the past 5 years. We know that you consider yourselves to be the greatest warriors in the galaxy." Velthek was shocked. How did the humans have such detailed information about his ship and his people's activities? "We also know," the Admiral continued, "that our soldier defeated you in single combat." The bridge fell silent. Even though they had all heard rumors about the fight, hearing it confirmed by the enemy was still shocking. "You are well informed," Velthek said carefully. "Information is a weapon, Commander. We have been watching your people for some time, learning about your capabilities and your intentions. Why have we never detected your surveillance?" Admiral Park smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. "Because we did not want you to detect it. Humans are very good at remaining hidden when necessary." Velthek thought about what Hyun had told him about human warfare. The idea of an enemy that could watch them without being seen was terrifying. "What do you want?" he asked. "We want our soldier returned unharmed. In exchange, we will forget that this incident ever happened." "And if we refuse?" The Admiral's expression did not change. "Then you will discover why every other species in this galaxy has learned to avoid conflicts with humans." "Are you threatening us?" "I am offering you a choice, Commander. The easy way or the hard way." Velthek looked around his bridge. His officers were watching him carefully, waiting to see what he would decide. The smart choice was obvious. They were outnumbered by ships with unknown capabilities. The humans had already demonstrated that they possessed superior intelligence gathering and tactical planning. But accepting defeat without a fight would be humiliating. The Veltharan Empire had never backed down from any challenge. "Sir," Tekval whispered, "perhaps we should consider the Admiral's offer. We do not know what we are facing." Before Velthek could respond, alarms started sounding throughout the bridge. The sensor officer looked up from his console with panic in his eyes. "Sir, I am detecting massive energy spikes from the human ships. Whatever weapons they have, they are powering them up. How long until they can fire?" "Unknown, sir, but based On the energy readings, their weapons are far more powerful than anything in our database. Velthek made his decision. He had seen what one human could do in single combat. He did not want to learn what an entire human fleet could do to his ship. "Admiral Park," he said to the screen, "we accept your terms. Your soldier will be returned immediately." The Admiral nodded. "A wise choice, Commander. Please prepare your prisoner for transport." The screen went dark. Velthek stood in the silence of his bridge for a moment, then turned to his officers. "Bring the human to the transport bay, and treat him with respect." 20 minutes later, Hyun was escorted to the ship's transport bay. He was no longer in restraints, and the guards around him kept a respectful distance. Word of his victory over the commander had spread throughout the ship, earning him a reputation that even the guards did not want to challenge. Velthek was waiting in the transport bay when Hyun arrived. The human looked exactly the same as when he had first been captured, calm, observant, and completely unimpressed by his surroundings. "You are free to go," Velthek said simply. "Thank you," Hyun replied. "Before you leave, I have a question." "What is it?" "How many ships does your fleet really have?" Hyun looked at him with those dark, intelligent eyes. "Which fleet?" "The one surrounding us right now." "Oh, that one. 6 ships." "Only 6? But you spoke as if humans had vast military forces." Hyun smiled. 6 ships is what we needed to handle one Veltheran battlecruiser. If you had more ships, we would have brought more ships. And if we had brought our entire fleet? Then we would have brought our entire fleet. Velthek felt that cold fear again. "How large is your entire fleet?" "Large enough." The human walked toward the transport beam that would take him back to his own people. But before he stepped onto the platform, he turned back.